Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Convention of States, Indiana Live. Well, Ken, how did that intro go?
I think you did a great job on that one.
I got it nailed that time, didn't I? I'll tell you.
I think you did. You've been practicing, haven't you?
I've been practicing on this. I sure have. That is for sure. Now, let me get up to where I need to be here. But I want to welcome everyone, and let me introduce our co-host there is Ken Kashuba. My name's Dale Parrish. I'm the state director. Ken is in addition to being the co-host, is our state communications coordinator. So we rely heavily on Ken for a lot of things, and he does a fantastic job. So another one of Ken's duties this evening, other than just being the co-host, as he will monitor any comments and questions that we may get from viewers this evening. And we're always looking for those comments and questions. So we would encourage you, if you're viewing either via Facebook, our state Facebook page, Convention of States, Indiana, or our YouTube channel, Indiana Patriots for Convention of States. Either way, please feel free to submit comments or questions, and we'll try our best to get those on and address those as best we can. Now, in the event that you may have a thought or an afterthought or question come up after our broadcast is completed, feel free to drop us an email. And that email address is raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. That's raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. So that's how you can reach us once the broadcast is over. So I encourage you, any thoughts or comments that come up after the broadcast or questions, feel free to drop us an email, and we will certainly address those with you via email. Well, Ken, we are still pursuing the theme of what action can I take in Convention of States. And I think, I really, when the year started out, I really thought that we would go with this theme for maybe the first month, Ken?
Yeah.
But it has continued. Obviously, we're into April now, and the theme still, I think, is a good theme. I think we will stay with this as long as it seems appropriate. I might mention, I had intended on saying this a little earlier, but tonight is our 144th broadcast.
144.
Yeah. 144. And I think you've been on here, 5 or 6 times now?
Yeah, I think you're stuck on that number somewhere in there, Dale. Yeah, we actually hit number 18 tonight.
No,
not counting the one that we had to cancel, but
that is just not possible. 18 weeks you've been doing this with me.
Yeah. It goes back to pretty much about the beginning of the year, I guess. So.
Is it really? Okay.
Mhm.
I gotta remember to put a banner in there uh, to tell everyone uh, what number we're on.
Yeah.
I think that's really something. That's we consider, for those of you new to watching our broadcast, we consider these live streams as virtual town halls. I've always referred to them as a virtual town hall, and we started this late 2018. Actually, really got started 2019, and uh, hard to believe, but
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is 144, number 144. So
Come a long way.
come a long way. I mean, you break that down. That's uh, that's uh, that's a lot of time and effort.
A lot of hours.
No,
No kidding.
isn't that
Yes.
the truth?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, okay. Let me tell you. Let us tell you a little bit about what you can expect out of our broadcast this evening. Now, going with this theme, what action can I take in convention estates? We're going to bring you an interview that Ken and I did with a young lady, a convention estates supporter, uh, and she's a podcaster. She had her and another young lady have a podcast that they do, and we have, as a matter of fact, Ken, there are uh, two other podcasters that I want to have on. We're looking at bringing one of them on next Monday if we can work out the details, and then there's one more after her that I want to bring on. So there are three podcasters. Actually, there's a fourth one because the audio portion of our roundtable meetings, which we do every fourth Monday, the audio portion of that is published as a podcast. So,
Podcast.
in essence, we're kind of in podcasting as well, but I'll be a byproduct of our live stream. But anyway, these other three individuals actually conduct podcasts, and that's a way of being an activist, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. That's something that people can do, I think, and it's neat to run into people out there that are taking that on themselves. So yeah, I think
yeah.
it was a great interview. I think people will enjoy.
I think you're going to
Hannah.
enjoy this interview. This young lady's a dynamic young lady. Hannah Montgomery is her name. I think Hannah, didn't she say she lives in Linton,
Linton,
Indiana,
Linton, Indiana. Yeah,
yeah,
down south,
down south, down south. So
southwestern portion of Indiana.
okay, so that'll be the interview segment, the guest segment. Then we'll take a break, and we're gonna bring on one of our contributors, Rick Lyon, on one of the Lion Truth segments tonight. I think he's going to be talking about self-governance, so we'll bring him on. And then we're going to turn it over to Ken and do the raise your voice. This is the polling portion of our broadcast where we're actually going to be conducting a poll. And Ken, you want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. We have been doing this now for a number of times. Where basically we have a QR code, which I'm going to go ahead and share here, so you can get ready to participate in that polling. And this will carry everything from a poll to a quiz, but tonight we've got some interesting questions. So when I bring up the QR code here, you can see the QR code and of course the information for logging in any other ways other than taking your smartphone out and scanning that QR code, which will bring you directly to the Slido post for tonight, our questions for tonight. It'll bring you right there. And if you are on a tablet or a computer, you can certainly go to slido.com and enter number 992543, and that's the questionnaire and polling for this evening. So, and that, again, the QR code will show throughout the questioning. So you can always grab it then if you are still looking for your smartphone or haven't had a chance to get that up. The QR code is shown throughout the polling segment. So we think you'll enjoy tonight's polling, and Marengo will bring that on after we are through with our interview for the evening. So,
okay. All right.
That's
Great.
our
Great.
code for the evening.
All right. Well, let's get moving on. Then, as I mentioned, we're let me get that off of there. We're talking about convention of states and activism, and we wanted to introduce people to the podcasters that we're aware of here in Indiana, and these are convention of states people that are involved in podcasting. So we're going to be interviewing here Convention of State supporter Hannah Montgomery. Now, Hannah conducts this podcast with another young lady. Let's get into the interview, and I believe she mentions she introduces the other person. See, the other person wasn't able to join us on the recording here, but I think she does mention her name. So let's get into the interview, and we'll be back with you shortly. Well, good evening, folks. Welcome to our interview guest for this evening. We've run into a little scheduling problem this evening, so we're recording this interview. And Ken, I think we got a good guest tonight. I think everyone's going to find her very, very informative. So let's go ahead and get going here. Now, Ken, as you know, we're continuing the theme of what action can I take in Convention of States.
Yep.
Okay, and so that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, and specifically Convention of State and activism. We've covered some different ways of activism through Convention of States, haven't we?
I think we've discovered a number of ways that you can be active, and it's good because the wide variety of people out there that are looking for something to do. I think we have found that everybody can find a niche, and I think Hannah's one of those that we're finding another whole niche too, that some people might consider following that path. So
That's right. And you know what I've learned through our process here, and we're not finished, folks. We're not finished. We're still seeking and finding other ways to be an activist in Convention of States. But being an activist can be taking on a leadership role, becoming a district captain, or becoming another position in our network, or it can be doing a podcast like what we're going to be talking about tonight, or attending a rally, or being involved in that respect. So anyway, would you agree, Ken, there's just a wide range of ways that you can express your activism through Convention of States?
I fully agree. Yep. You can be a writer, or you can be a vocal support type of person, like a podcaster, or more visual, and by doing what we're doing here. So yeah.
Yep. I would agree. Good. Well, we wanted to focus on podcasting. As a matter of fact, I'm aware of, including ourselves, as a matter of fact, I'm aware of 4 different podcasters that we have here in the state of Indiana. And so I wanted to take time to introduce some of these to our listeners, maybe some that you're not aware of, and talk about podcasting, because this is definitely, I believe, a way of a form of activism, and perhaps for people that never thought that they would ever do anything like this, I think it's just a great way to express oneself. So we are very, very honored this evening to have one of the 4 podcasters that I'm aware of. I'm hoping there may be more out there, but the one that I have found here that I want to introduce tonight is a young lady down in southern Indiana, and her name she is a convention of state supporter, and her name is Hannah Montgomery. So Ken, let's bring Hannah on and introduce her to everyone. Okay,
Sounds good.
here we go.
Hey.
Hello, Hannah. Hi.
Hello,
How
Hannah.
are you guys?
Good. So glad you could join us today, Hannah. And Hannah is in addition to being a podcaster, she's a young mother. And how many kids? You have 3 children? Did you say?
Yep.
3 children. Are they all boys? Did you say?
No, 2 girls and a boy.
Oh, 2 girls and a boy. Well, they're all in sports, though, right?
Oh yeah, busy.
So we had some schedule conflicts today with sports and so forth. So Ken and I both have grandchildren that we have obligations to. So we understand. So anyway, I wanted to bring on Hannah and to talk about podcasting and talk about her podcast. And so we'll get into that more detail as we go along here. But first of all, I want to ask Hannah, as I said, she's a convention of state supporter. So Hannah, how did you tell us your COS story, the how, when, where you came across convention of states?
So it was kind of a fluke because I was looking at some things that I can get involved with, some grassroots organizations, stuff in my hometown and county and state. And there wasn't a whole lot that really caught my eye. And then I got looking into what convention of states was and how it's operated and how it rolls. And I never had heard of it, back, except for maybe back in school. So whenever I started getting involved with it and reading up on it more, I'm like, I think this is my place.
Okay, great. Now, you mentioned what are you still? You're not working full time now, right?
I work for myself. Yep.
Just for yourself. Yep. But didn't you say you were in healthcare before, or?
I was. I actually was in emergency medical services. I was hoping to be a director of an ambulance service somewhere. And I worked on the ambulance for almost 8 years and got into dispatching and worked at our local hospital for a while. And I just knew that there was something more. And I actually was never involved in anything of the sort. So going from healthcare to working at home by myself and staying accountable for myself, I kind of got browsing, and that's kind of how I came up on convention of states. So I'm not sure that would have happened with my 80-hour work weeks that I used to have.
Well, I'll tell you that's a familiar theme that people decided to get involved, and they started looking out beyond what they were doing, and they find different activities, and convention of states is one of those things that a lot of people. I certainly did that too. You worked for an ambulance service, really? Were you? Did you actually drive an ambulance or ride an ambulance?
Drove an ambulance, worked in the back on patients. Did the
really?
whole hospital care, did the whole 9 yards. I think I had my hand in every portion of that whole atmosphere. So, and I started out very young, right out of college. I went to college and played softball, and I'm like, oh, I don't think I want to do this forever. So I got involved with another college, and I seen actually my dad was a retired fireman, and he told me not to get involved with the emergency.
He told you not to do this.
Fatherly advice. Yeah.
It kind of just fell in my lap. I seen a couple of people run by to go on a run real quick right outside of my apartment complex. And I'm like, I want to do that. I've been around it my whole life. It can't be that hard. So I was actually involved with it before I turned 20. And so I've seen a lot of things in the past several years.
I bet you have. Wow. Well, that's very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Well, thank you on that. Now, your podcast, and this is, I got to ask you about the name of your podcast.
I knew you were gonna.
And one patriotic. How did you that is the name of your podcast, right?
Yeah, so I actually have a co-host. Her name is Kyla Helms, and we're just kind of two small town mamas, trying to raise our kids the best way we know how. And we knew we wanted to do a podcast kind of around the idea that we love our country and we want to kind of make some changes, but we're moms too, we're busy. We went over that.
Right.
And I'm like, well, we're like two peas in a pod. We got to do something. And she just said, what about two peas in one patriotic pod? And I'm like, let's just roll with it, because we're not going to decide on a name. So, we just do it based on our love for the country, and we are two peas in a pod. Wait till you get us together sometime.
Okay.
Sometimes it's best to act on that impulse, right? Just take the impulse, the first thing that comes to your head.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, have you ever heard of the local moving service? There's two men in a truck. There's two ladies in a truck. You ever heard of them?
Yeah.
When I first saw this name, I thought, oh, that sounds like two men in a truck. Oh, well, anyway, I digress a bit there. But so two peas in one patriotic pod. Well, you've kind of answered this question, why the name. You wanted something that to kind of reflect the two of you, right?
Yeah, and we actually, our focus, which I know that I think you were going to talk about that, but our focus was going to just mainly be parents and moms, and our frustration was just kind of with our government for one, but our school boards. Not a lot of people were showing up to school board meetings, and we were like, well, how do we reach more people? What can we do to make a difference? And so like I said, we started the podcast, and we started, our direction was towards mamas, and we ended up getting all kinds of parents from all over. So
now, I like I said, I've listened to. I started listening to one of your podcasts. Do you? I think I heard it mentioned tea time. Is this? Are you trying to get that afternoon tea time?
Well,
time slot or what?
We more or less like to spill the tea.
Okay. All right. We'll leave that there. So, where can people find your podcast?
So we record, and I think the podcast is noted on Anchor, but that also goes on to Spotify and Apple Music. And then we're on different social media platforms too, where you can find the link to get to our podcast. So, and it's just two peas in one patriotic pod, pretty much everywhere, as long as we've not been taken down. But we're out there. You can find us.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, I think you mentioned that you, as far as your objective and your focus, I think you told me that you have listeners all over the world, right?
Yeah, we do. It actually really surprised us, because we didn't think we'd have too much of a reach. I said before, we were both kind of backwards and shy, and we didn't ever think that we'd be doing any kind of videos. We didn't think that we'd be recording our own voices. We don't even like listening to our playbacks, if that tells you anything. Exactly. And so, our focus was really parents in our area and hoping that somebody somewhere might listen. And we've had people in South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, across the United States, from west to east and north to south. So it's really cool that we were able to do that from our kitchen table, and get so many people involved. So it's kind of a neat thing.
Do you take call in? Well, of course, you're pre-recording a lot of these, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any way of accounting for any viewer observation or viewer input, or
Yeah,
question?
so we usually put our email out there. We get a lot of feedback, both negative and positive, majority of positive. But we have a lot of people that ask us to look into things as well. We actually have a school board that's doing some improper things a county away. And some of the parents had contacted us to see if we could help. So I mean, even though we started small and just for our county and our own school boards, we have people contact us that are, counties adjacent to us and around our area that know, like, we try to investigate everything. We're kind of like investigative journalism.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it's kind of been nice to be able to reach out that helping hand, especially for parents that are just getting involved and they don't know exactly where to turn to, or how to get in touch with legislators and things like that. So we like to help out where we can.
Okay. Now, do you get into political candidates? Do you try to feature any debates or anything like that?
We have actually tried to get people to come on and speak with us that have opposing opinions and just kind of talk it out. Because there's so much information out there. We've retracted when we've been wrong, and we try to get more people on to come and talk about the viewpoints and opinions that we have, that differ from their own. And we haven't really had much success with that. Most people that want to join our podcast are like-minded like us. So, but we try to, I would say that we do talk about different people that are involved in politics. But we try to stay away from it, either because we get too excited and we're too much energy for people, or we get upset and our blood pressure rises, So it's one of the two. It's never the gray area in between.
Politics has a way of doing that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Have you ever, now, for the folks, for the listeners that may not be aware, a podcast is, of course, audio only. Have you ever thought about taking on live, like what we're doing here?
We've actually considered it, and some of our guest speakers that we've had on that have bigger platforms than we have, 500,000 followers opposed to our 20,000 followers. We try to get them on more of a video conference and record that so we have it. We just haven't wanted to take on the role of going to YouTube or something of that nature just yet, because we're so busy, being a mom and trying to get involved in your school board is a big task in its own. But as your kids get older and they're involved in more activities, it's even harder to stay focused on those types of things. And like I said, we didn't really start this to reach so many people. We started it to just more focus on our hometown issues and grassroots organizations that we could get involved in. And so now that it's kind of lifted off the ground, we're like, we need to make more time for this. We need to probably do more videos.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. It definitely is. It definitely is hard to find the time. How do you go about lining up a guest? Is it strictly event oriented, current events, or what's the kind of the process you go through to line up a guest?
We're actually really careful about the situation. We kind of vet them before they come in, and we go through their social media. We try to get like-minded people. Like I said, we use a couple of different social media platforms to kind of research and look at. Sometimes they just come across our newsfeed and we're like, who's that? I wonder if they want to come onto our podcast. And we just kind of look through all of their things and their beliefs and even their opposing opinions, and we ask to discuss those. So, we've even had people that are like-minded like us that don't necessarily have the same opinion as us on certain things. So getting them on there and kind of discussing that, looking through a different lens, that's really important to us. So, we'll go through one of our platforms that we're on, with this video platform. We'll scroll through there until we find somebody. And a lot of times, if they have a big following, they don't get messages or they don't respond, or their email takes forever, and then we don't hear from them for 2 or 3 months. So we try to get, as soon as we hear from them, we try to get them on the schedule.
Yeah.
So, but most of ours comes from different areas and on social media. we have a couple of different guests that we've actually had on from Indiana that have ran for Congress, and just things of that nature. So it's always nice to hear from those people that are always up to date and current, events, whether it's just in our state or nationally. So, and there's a whole lot of information to roll through. I can't keep up on it.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, I want to wrap things up here. Ken, unless you got any questions that I've.
Well, I think just one really. I know Hannah mentioned that that the two of you started this roughly 2 years ago, and you mentioned the focus of being local and a concern with getting people involved in your local school board. Did you? I mean, based on the way things have happened here in the last, say, year or 6 months to a year, did you have any idea that the school board issue in particular would turn out to be it's probably one of your hottest topics, obviously, because it was one of your original focuses, but
right.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish.
I was going to say that, based on that, did you have any idea that this would just kind of, the direction would take off on its own? And I have a feeling, based on the fact that you welcome to talk about people that are like-minded, but maybe not have the same opinion. I find that an interesting aspect, because it's almost what we've lost in everything else in the country is the fact that we can agree on a lot of things, and we may have disagreements, but we can all have a similar focus for the country. So I'm just curious, when you stop and look back at where your podcast has come from and where, as rapidly as it's moved in this direction, what your thoughts are in that area.
So we both feel like God kind of pushed us into doing something. We both are really involved in our faith. And if you listen to our podcast, you might be like, well, they cuss a little bit, but we do. However, when we first,
I caught that on.
But that's what forgiveness is all about.
Right. I love Jesus, but I cuss a little. That's kind of our motto. And actually, when we first started, I was scared to death to go to school board meetings. I didn't know the first thing about it. And I've got a kid getting ready to go into junior high.
This has been a big, this is a good question of Ken's, because school board involvement has become a big issue in the States. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. We've actually had people from different counties and different areas ask us to come to their school board meetings too. And we've gotten information from people in other states and how they've won with their school boards. So our mission was kind of just to collaborate and get a whole bunch of information and everything that we need, or different avenues that we could take when approaching the school board, especially a school board that isn't as like-minded as, say we are. And now Kyla and I are both considering running for school board, and we were scared to go to meetings in the beginning. And this was just a little over a year ago. So getting involved and learning yourself, like doing your own research and learning the things that you need to learn, is super important, because there's so much out there. And I like to say, you never know what's true or what's not until you dig a little deeper, right? So that was kind of our mission, was to find the truth. Like what have when we were taught things growing up in school, like we thought other people were indoctrinated, and we in fact were as well. So learning through different lenses and different people's opinions, and kind of getting to the bottom of those things was our initial goal. And trying to get involved. We didn't even know anything about local politics when we started. We had not a clue. We didn't even know whose names were what and involved in our county, if that tells you anything. So we were fresh, brand spanking new. And so getting involved was very intimidating for us. And we also thought, well, we're just one person. Two peas. We're just one person. We're stay-at-home moms. We run our own businesses. And what can we do? What can little old me do? Because I think that's usually the hesitancy that we run across. So what am I going to do about it? They're so big. What am I going to do about it? Or I don't know enough about this. But just trying and just doing is really the best thing, because you get more confident the further you get into it, because you educate yourself. that's a huge thing. Is there's not a lot of people that are educated on even like Title V. Whenever I first joined Convention of States and they said Title V, and I'm like, is that the same thing as an amendment? And I was so lost in what I was doing that I actually got one of those books. It was the U.S. Constitution for Dummies, because I didn't know where I was starting or what I was doing. And so just getting involved helps you learn and helps you get that courage to go and do that. And I think even speaking with parents, their push is usually their kids. It's not anything to do with their own personal, issues with what's going on. It's because they want better for their kids and eventually their grandkids. And so that's been why we've stayed involved as long as we have. And now we're considering, we haven't said for sure, but we're considering running for school board. So just getting involved, and your local government is what's really going to start making some changes.
I don't know about you,
Ken.
Ken.
Off subject there.
I don't know about you, but I don't think it could have been said any better.
No, I think she wrapped it up in a nutshell.
She really wrapped it up. I mean, I think you've told the story of so many people, certainly me, but so many people that have come into Convention of States to get involved. And I think you've summed it up very well, Hannah. Very excellent. Very quickly, if someone's considering doing a podcast, what do you recommend to them?
Just do it.
Just do it. I like that. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just as long as Nike doesn't come after you for that.
Oh, yeah, right. Just get it done.
There you go.
All right. There you go.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Hannah. You've been a wonderful guest, and hopefully, maybe we can have you on again, huh?
Okay. Yeah, maybe I can get Kyla to come on this time.
Yeah.
Good.
Great.
Yeah. Like to meet both P's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not just the one P.
There you go. All right. Well, Hannah, once again, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, Ken, I think that was a great interview. Looking forward to including this in our next broadcast. So on that note, unless you've got something else, we'll wrap it up here. Okay.
Nope. I think she did a great job, and great interview. Thank you, Hannah.
All right, Ken. That was, I really enjoyed that interview, and I thought Hannah was a great guest.
Very, very energetic young lady. I agree.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Good role model. And we've got some people asking some things. We'll go ahead and take this time to go ahead and just put up a couple of comments.
Yeah.
Diane Jones, who came on, said lots of good can come when you step out of your comfort zone. So I think she pretty much nailed it there, talking about how Hannah has stepped out of her comfort zone, and her other P in the pod. And we had some people looking for wanting us to post her link to her podcast. Don't know whether you have that there at all. We might be able to put that in the chat or.
I don't right offhand. I was hoping that she would give us one.
I was going to look to see. I'm but she said all you need to do is there is a Facebook. You can look her up on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, you can do a search for 2 P's in 1 Patriotic Pod and find the group there on Facebook.
Or you can go to anchor.fm.
Anchor.fm or even Apple. If you're Apple, you can search for them there. But we will maybe we can include the post if I can find it at some point and get that up in the chat or something. But I had a couple of people asking that. We even had Terry Heimlich had asked what is her podcast. So hopefully we've answered some of those questions. But we'll try and get the link up at some point.
Okay. All right. Okay. Ken, I think the interview with Hannah went over our normal time limit, so we're running kind of close tonight. And I want to get the polling in. We've got some good polling questions, so I think we're going to skip over the contributor segment tonight for the sake of time. All right, and we'll go on to the raise your voice segment. So
All right.
you want to get Maringo Mike to get us started here then?
If he hasn't eaten all the donuts in the green room, yeah, we'll bring him up.
All right.
Scan the code and join the fun. It's your turn to be heard.
Well, there you go, Marengo. It says it is that time, so we're going to go ahead and bring up the screen for the podcast, or the podcast. I'm still talking about podcasts here.
You're still caught
We're gonna bring up the polling.
that.
It'll, the peas are falling. The peas are in the pod tonight, so we're gonna go ahead and bring up the QR code, and then once again the Slido.com number 992543 will get you in if you're on your computer or tablet. Get your smartphones and scan the QR code so you can take part in tonight's polling.
There you almost said it again, didn't you?
We've been talking about podcasts all day, and it's kind of stuck in my brain right here. So we'll give another few seconds here for you to grab that code. It'll also be located on the left-hand side when we begin the questioning on these. But I think we've got a couple of interesting questions tonight to poll people with. And obviously, as we've talked about in the past, we use these questions and the polling aspect from Slido to gather material that our viewers and listeners want us to tackle in upcoming roundtables. And that roundtable will be on the 25th of April this month. Will be our next roundtable. So, with that, we'll go ahead and bring up our first question, and we can basically get started with that. We'll show you the first one here. And that is the American Institute for Behavioral Research and Technology. They conducted a monitoring project on bias within big tech firms. According to the study, Google was responsible for switching votes. Approximately how many do you think the study estimated? This was after they did their monitoring. And wow, we're across the board. We're split 1, 2, 3, 4 so far.
Wow.
25, 25, 25, and 25. We'll give some more time here to see if any other people are answering or giving their question. Now it's 1 million, 6 million are seen to be leading the pack. And 10,000 and 25,000 dropped off to 17. But this was an interesting monitoring study that's gone on for a couple of years now. So I think people will be surprised to find out what Google has influenced.
The study said that Google was responsible for switching votes, this many votes.
The study, I'll give you a little bit of a background on it. They basically monitored and using study groups and basically monitoring how people responded. The Google basically influenced, and so they decided by the influencing factor that Google was using to bring information to people. They estimated that a certain amount of votes were influenced and switched based on the results that they were getting through Google.
Wow.
So I think we have the correct answer shown here. If not, I'll have to give it. We'll go on to number 2. I think it'll show up, but the answer is 6 million. 6 million votes is what they estimated on that. So
wow.
Yeah. So based on that too, our second question tonight is basically just give us the top 3 issues off of this list. And Dale and I were talking about this earlier. It's growing. The list is growing. What top 3 issues do you feel need to be addressed from the list? Again, we use this to kind of give us some guidance into what we might highlight and talk about in future shows. So fiscal responsibility, protect girls and women's sports, open border, obviously big tech in our elections, media bias, ban vaccine mandates, spying on Americans. That's a kind of a new one. So yeah, we've got some interesting results here, Dale.
Yeah. Actually, one of them there that I didn't read it completely when we reviewed these questions, so I would change my answers a bit.
Would you?
I
Yeah,
tell
well,
you, this election integrity is really. I'm getting
that's
more and more interested in that. I really
it's at the top of the list, isn't it? Yeah, just
it
about every
is.
time. Big tech in our election, and of
It's-
course, there's so many variables in the election that obviously it brings in. I think that's one of the things that there's just so many different things that you can talk about. You know, everything that we talked about tonight. Obviously, the big tech getting involved, and you have other things like, you know, this money. You know,
Right.
you've got the what do they call that now? The Zuckerbucks.
Yeah.
You got Zuckerbucks out there and other things that have happened. So it's a intertwined and a complicated issue, but I think it's one that everybody is realizing. You know, we have to fix this. We have to fix it.
Yep. Yep.
So that's our list there. I'm a little surprised that we had nobody voting down there for protecting girls and women's sports, but that's still I think it's still kind of in the early stages, and maybe that's going to get hotter as things go along. But that's our second poll question. Our last one for the evening. Do you feel that racism is a problem among you and your friends? I think more and more people realize that. Well, I won't say anything at this point.
Don't say anything yet. Wait till everybody votes on this.
You know, I think most people don't find. I mean, I think we can all admit that you know, you can't have a country of this size without having some elements of racism in it. But it seems to me the media portrays this as being such a much bigger problem than it is. I mean, obviously, nobody really likes racism. It's something that I think, you know, people want to eliminate. It's just one of those things that in human nature, you're going to find people that have some racist inside them. So,
Ken, do you have you caught on the news that the NFL, speaking of racism, that the NFL is actually going to implement a requirement that every team has to have a minority as an offensive coach of some.
It's an offensive coach. They have to have one.
Is it minority or is it?
From what I recall, and I'll have to retract if I'm wrong, but it might be. I think it's. I don't think they used the word minority. I think they were specifically looking at blacks, although I'm not sure.
That's what I seem to think. I can't believe.
I recall it. I recall it at that. Yeah.
I don't know if that's carved in stone yet, or if that's a set rule.
Well, it was certainly a woman. I mean, at this point, I think from what I recall, it was a woman that they want on the offensive as an offensive coach.
I just don't understand how.
I don't understand what drives the NFL. I mean, at this point, you've got. I think you've got two. If I'm kind of going off the top of my head, but I think you've got two female referees in the NFL. And you have women. You have women team owners. I don't know. And again, if you're qualified, I don't have a problem with a woman being a coach of any kind, even a head coach. It doesn't matter to me if
a former Colts coach, Dungy,
Tony
Dungy. I think he said this the right way. I saw him on one of the sports programs that he's involved in, and he says, yes, I would like to see more African American coaches and so forth, people of color involved. But the important thing is that the coach or whoever's in charge of the team has got to be the right person for the team. Yeah. And it's got to be the best qualified person. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but I thought that was so good, that the important thing that it's the best qualified person for the team, regardless of color. And
I think when you get into this numbers game where you have to, you're playing this, I don't know, I guess they're using the word, I don't even know if the word equity that they're using nowadays. But
Right.
I mean, when you start looking at the numbers, both in corporations and just every aspect of life nowadays, where you talk about the numbers, it's its own form of discrimination, because somebody who might be a much more qualified person, doesn't matter what their skin color is. It's really just it comes down to the qualifications. I don't understand the thinking. I really don't.
Yeah.
I want to put this up here, Dale. Cheryl, one of our district captains, has the link for the two peas in a pod. So I want to put that up for everybody, so that thanks, Cheryl. We have our people working for us in the background. They are bringing up the things that we need. So
Hannah is in Cheryl's region. So
yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, Cheryl. Glad you tuned in tonight.
So there's the address for the two peas in one patriotic pod. So
okay, let's leave that up there so that everybody can get that for a while. Well, we kind of got off topic there with the coaching.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, we go from basketball to football. That's okay. Yeah.
All right. Well, I always like to wind up our broadcast with a little message from Maringo Mike. And, Maringo's always seems to always be searching through the swamp and trying to find more and more monsters in that swamp. So I thought we would wind up with a little bit of a message from Maringo Mike. So we'll play Maringo. This is from Maringo Mike's Corner. All right, Ken, we'll be right back.
Maringo Mike here. Have you noticed more and more Americans are waking up to how deep the swamp really is? The curtain's been pulled back, and it's become evident there's a lot more work that has to be done. So, who are you gonna call to finish the job?
Convention of States!
All right, I love that. I just love.
I'm hoping Marengo keeps that gun loaded down there. I'll post another comment. Our faithful Susan Lyons posted that we found a monster tonight. Google is scandalous. So there's another one of those growling monsters in the swamp down there.
That's right. Hey, before we sign off here, I noticed a couple of those comments that you put on there. Those are new names, new viewers, I think.
I think so. Here's another one, Dale. Maybe I don't know whether you recognize.
Yeah, that was one of them. Yeah,
Dave. Yep. Our country would be better off if everyone read the Constitution of the United States. It certainly helped Jeopardy watchers. So if you've got any plans on being on Jeopardy, you should brush up on the Constitution just for that as well.
Well, so, Dave, thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, I got one more for you. This one just popped on too. Terry Lawson.
That's a new name.
We need to make sure that no rhinos and Democrats are not elected anywhere. I live in Bartholomew County and want to help avoid this. So
good.
You're welcome to join us and band together with the over 65,000 supporters in Indiana and see what we can do.
There you go.
Strength in numbers.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up. We're going to have another podcaster. If we can get it all lined up here, we're going to have another podcaster on next Monday. And she's also from Southern Indiana. Frances Farmer is her name. She's a COS Convention of State supporter. As a matter of fact, I think she's in training to be a district captain, I believe. So she does a podcast, and her partner on the podcast is a gentleman from Kentucky. So hopefully we'll get them both on. But
Nice.
certainly Fran, if we can, I mean, if we can't get both of them on. So we'll be talking about podcasting for another week here, and then we'll be getting into the roundtable broadcast. So, Ken, I think that's a wrap for tonight. Unless you've got anything else.
No, another good night, and it's good to see some new people on. Keep bringing the new people in and spreading the word. We're growing.
That's good. That's a good sign. Good sign.
One quick question. Whether you know, I haven't heard anything. Any other news on South Carolina? We are up to 19 states, and I was curious about the governor's decision there. Anything on that in South Carolina?
As far as I know, he hasn't signed the resolution as yet. South Carolina is kind of odd. Normally, the resolution doesn't require a governor's signature, but in South Carolina, it does. So the legislature has passed the resolution, and now it's on the governor's desk to be signed. And as a matter of fact, Convention of States is in the midst of a telephone calling mission where we're calling supporters in South Carolina and asking them to contact the governor and encouraging him to sign this. So
do what is right. Yeah, do what's right. Yep.
The mission started last Friday, and I saw today where it was continued again today. So that's an example of how those of us here in Indiana, of course, Indiana being a past state, we passed the resolution in 2016. This is how we help states that haven't passed the resolution as yet. This is one way that we can help, and by doing these telephone campaigns.
Yeah.
So that mission is continuing, and hopefully we will be a strong enough presence to get this signed by the governor and put it in place. And so South Carolina would officially then be number 19.
Hopefully his phone will not stop ringing.
Let's hope so. All right, Ken, that's a wrap for tonight. And thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Ken, have a good night.
You too, Dale. Good night. Good night, everybody.